Hi everyone, my name's Annette. Welcome back to Cottoverdi. We're in the working part of our garden today and I have had an exciting delivery. I thought I'd show you what I've got and what I'm doing with them. So I have got some little mini daffodils, I've got some amaryllis bulbs, I'm super excited about those, and I've got some bare root perennials. So let's unpack the box and figure out what we're going to do with everything. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to soak the roots of my amaryllis bulbs that have just arrived. So these, if you've been following along on my channel, these aren't the amaryllis that I've put into hibernation, or they're resting in my shed behind me. These are new amaryllis that I couldn't resist. So I've got 4 varieties here, actually only 3 bowls, which is a bit annoying. I need to get another bowl. But what I'm going to do is I am going to soak the roots. So amaryllis come with sort of dried up roots, which is fine, it's absolutely fine. But there is one lady that I follow here on YouTube, and she's called Danielle, North Lawn Flower Farm, and she says that if we soak the roots for 24 hours before we plant them, then they'll flower sooner. Now I don't really need to do this because actually amaryllis will flower between 8 and 12 weeks after you've planted them up, and so that is, it will depend on the type of bulb you have and just what it decides to do. There's no rhyme or reason or any way we can actually really determine when they're going to flower. But it is now 12 weeks until Christmas Day. I can't believe I've calculated that, but I do calculate that so that I know when to plant up my bulbs. So if I want these to be in flower, and you know, even if I planted all 3 bulbs of each, I've got 3 of each variety, so even if I planted them all together in the same container, which I did last year, they'll all flower at different times anyway. So it's just so unlikely that you get them all flowering at the same time. That's what I found last year. Maybe I'll do better this year and I'll get luckier. But if we soak them for 24 hours, then they apparently will flower sooner. Maybe they'll flower in 8 or 10 weeks rather than waiting the 12. But I'm going to plant them up tomorrow, but I'm going to soak them for 24 hours first. So all I'm doing is I'm taking the 3 of each variety I've got. So I've got 3 Amadeus Candy, which is a variety that I had last year. It's a gorgeous white variety with sort of raspberry tips to it, and it's a double variety which I really liked, so it's sort of more fluffy and just really, really pretty. I'll put a picture up on the screen of what it looked like last year because I absolutely love that. So I'm trying to find my Amadeus Candy. These bulbs are so huge. They really are an investment, but they're totally worth it because we can keep them and grow them again next year. I'm just going to put them all in their bowls. One of the others that I've got this year is new to me. It's called a Kiko, and it's gloriously white, lovely large white blooms. They're double again, and the reason I like white so much is because it's so easy to coordinate them with your interiors. They just blend so elegantly, and so I've ordered a Kiko. I hope I'm going to love it just as much, and this apparently has got really large flowers, so I'm excited to see how big they get. The other one that I've ordered is called Aquaro or Aquaro. I'm not sure how you say it, and these have got gorgeous creamy double blooms, and they fade over time to white. I don't know if they fade or brighten over time to white, and they've got pink striations on the petals, so stripes from the centre to the tip of the petal are lovely, a lovely raspberry pink colour. And again, these are doubles, and hopefully I'll get, you know, really lovely large flowers. I just really like the white amaryllis, as you can tell. The red ones that I've chosen are for a friend. They're called Cherry Nymph, and I'd really love these to be blooming at Christmas for her. Sometimes when I gift, in fact most often when I gift amaryllis, I gift them not planted up. I sort of gift them in a pot with some moss maybe and let people enjoy planting them up themselves. But this time I want to plant these up so that it gives them the best chance of being in bloom at Christmas. And Cherry Nymph are a gorgeous, lovely double red fluffy red tulip, and they're not like dark red or anything, they're just a really nice bright velvety red. Apparently, I haven't grown these before, but they look astonishing, and they've been bred to have really strong sturdy stems and large flowers, which are long lasting. That's the other thing. The other reason I chose them is because they're supposed to be long lasting. So hopefully she'll really enjoy those. These are mine. This is my friend. So I'm going to, I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to stand these all up in these bowls, and they're sort of fitting quite nicely. I probably don't need the tags on, but I'll leave them on just in case. I've got a label in the bottom of each bowl. And then I'm just going to add water and leave them to sit for 24 hours. And then I'll show you how I plant them up tomorrow. So when we're watering them, try not to get any water into the stems here, because that could cause rot. And then just fill them up so only the roots are in water. We don't want the bulbs to be sitting in water, which is why I've put them in these they're snugly in these bowls so that they're not, I mean, you could put them in a vase or a glass or something, but I just wanted to put them all together. So just try to make sure the roots are in the water, but the bulbs are not quite sitting in the water. So fiddle around with them a bit. That's fine, that'll do. So I think what this does is it just gives them a head start, and that's why they flower a bit sooner. So if you are planting your Amaryllis bulbs late, then do this, soak them for a 24-hour period, and then take them out and plant them, and hopefully that will speed up the flowering. So now we're going to move on to the Daffodils, or Narcissus, that I've got 2 different varieties, and I'm going to plant them, I'm going to mix them in these 2 containers. So they'll be the same in each container. These are about, I think, 30 centimetres across, and we drilled holes in the bottom a few years ago. So they've got holes in them, which is fabulous because they need drainage. And then what I do, because they've got flat bases, so the water actually won't drain out, is I use these rings. So I sort of place these rings underneath like that, and then I've got 2 for each one, and they're just they're pot feet, but I find that they are just really easily disguised. You don't really see them. So that allows the water to drain out, because otherwise the water wouldn't really drain because the bases don't have a lip. And I can link those pot feet in the description below if you're interested. I really highly recommend them because I think they kind of look invisible. You don't really see them, but they really work and seem to be really long lasting. I've had them for a few years. So let me tell you about the tulips, the daffodils that I'm going to plant. So the first one I've got is called Silver Chimes, and these are actually quite big bulbs. So I think I am going to need some other containers. I probably won't get all of these bulbs into these 2 containers along with the other ones. So Silver Chimes is this, excuse me, Silver Chimes is, they have downward facing flowers on lovely arching stems, and they are described as being pristine white with a very, very soft, pale yellow central cup. And I think they look absolutely gorgeous. Now these are probably going to flower end of March, April time. So these are slightly later flowering than the other ones I've got, which are called Minnow. Another lovely good size. These are also going to grow to 20 or 30 centimetres tall, but they will flower sort of February, March time. So they'll flower before the Silver Chimes, hopefully. I don't mind if they flower at the same time, but it'd be nice to have a succession in these containers. And Minnow are a lovely sort of creamy yellow with a central cup that is much brighter yellow, and I think those will look really cute. It's just a nice mixture of soft pale yellows, I suppose, and a bit of white. What I should also mention about both of these daffodils is that they are multi-headed, so they're going to have more than one flower, and in fact Minnow can have up to 5 flowers on each stem, but Silver Chimes will have maybe 3 flowers on each stem. I'm excited to see how many flowers I get on each stem, but I think they're going to be just so pretty and so cute because, you know, they're quite low growing, but they're also just a really bright spark at that time of year when you really want it. What I'm going to do is mix up some compost. I use ordinary multi-purpose peat-free compost in my containers for everything. And I'm going to mix it with half and half grit, so as much or almost as much grit as I've got compost, because bulbs really like well-drained soil. And I am going to use a bulb starter when I plant these as well, because it just gives those bulbs a boost, and then hopefully they'll grow really strong roots and we'll have great flowers. Now I've left some space on top because what I like to do with my daffodils, or in fact any bulbs that I put in pots, is I like to put some of this moss on top. I just think it makes it look really pretty and less like sort of bare soil. And so I just sprinkle some of this on top. This is rehydrated moss that I buy online, and I think it's a really nice natural colour. I actually don't have enough here, I think, to do both of them, so I'm going to have to soak some more. I'll show you how I do that. I need some more anyway for the Amaryllis, because I do the same thing with my Amaryllis. So I thought I'd show you in fact how the moss comes and how I rehydrate it, so that you can see how simple it is. I really think this is, if you want to use moss, this is a really good way of doing it. For years I used to buy fresh moss, sort of sheet moss from our local florist, but it can get really expensive, whereas this comes in packets like this, vacuum packed, and you just open it up, and inside you can buy these in single blocks, but I buy a big batch of it because I use so much, and it comes in these blocks like this, and this turns into absolutely loads. So I just split it in half and then stick it in my bucket and rehydrate them. And it really doesn't take very long at all for these to get rehydrated. And we can sort of help the process along by breaking it up, but you really don't need to. It will just rehydrate itself all on its own. I'm going to add some more water. And there's no specific quantity to the amount of water you can add, because you just squeeze it out in the end. So if you've added too much water, just squeeze it out. So less than 5 minutes later, we've got some luscious moss. I just love this stuff. It just smells so woodsy as well when it's damp. I really love it. So this is the moss, and it just pulls apart like this. And if you've added too much water, you can just squeeze it out like that, and then it's dryish. Now I'm going to tell you about the bare roots that have arrived today, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. Now you can plant bare roots straight into your garden if you want to, but it is best to pot them up so that they can kind of root into the soil, and then plant them out maybe in a month or two's time, as long as your ground is not frozen yet. Now our borders are completely full of dahlias and annuals still, and I don't want to rip them out yet, so I'm potting mine up, and then once the dahlias are out and we've stored them away, we'll plant these up. So do follow along and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see where we put these in the garden. Again, I'm going to use ordinary multi-purpose peat-free compost, and I'm going to pot them up into these 1 litre containers here. I've added fresh compost to the potting tray. There's a tiny bit of grit in there left over from when I was planting the daffodils. So there was a tiny bit of compost with grit, but you don't need to add grit at all, and you don't need to add food if your compost is fresh, so you don't need to add anything, just use compost to pot up your bare roots. So these were supposed to come as bare roots, and I've opened the containers to find that actually they're in little pots. But can you see that they're kind of crammed in there and they've got roots coming out of the bottom? So I am going to pot these on, but they could definitely go straight out in the garden. I was really expecting bare roots, that's so weird. This first lot of plants, I've got 3 of these. This is a Thalictrum called Hewitt's Double, and I love Thalictrums because they've got this lovely sort of lacy, airy foliage, and then the flowers are on tall stems. This one grows to between 1.2 and 1.5 metres, so between 4 and 5 foot. The flowers on this one are these little mauvey pink pom-poms, and it's just really airy and light and swayy and frothy, and Thalictrums are just gorgeous, so I can't wait to have these in my garden. I've got just the spot for them, and they're really easy to grow, and in fact they'll self-seed really well. So you can plant these in full sun, light shade, dappled shade under trees is perfect for Thalictrums. Now I know the foliage is looking a bit ropey, but the plant is not dead, and the foliage is going to die back in the autumn anyway, so I'm not bothered by that. I seriously don't know what's happened because these aren't bare roots either, so these have also come as plants. I'm really happy about that. I mean, I suppose they wouldn't be bare roots at this time of year because they're bound to have some foliage attached. I just thought I'd ordered bare roots. Anyway, you probably want to know what this is. This is a Cape Figwort called Phygelius Candy Drops Cream. So it's got gorgeous tubular tubular cream flowers between July and September, and they attract pollinators, which is fabulous. They're going to grow to about 50 centimetres tall, so just under 2 foot. They like full sun or part shade, and damp but well-drained soil, preferably damp but well-drained soil. So they probably just don't like drying out, and they will spread, but gradually. Over a day later from when I started soaking the Amaryllis. I'm going to plant them up today, and I thought I'd show you how simple a process it is and what to do. I've mixed half and half multi-purpose compost, peat-free compost with grit. It's a horticultural grit, so it's very small stones, but that really helps drainage, and especially for bulbs that do not like sitting in wet. It's quite handy if you can mix grit in. You don't have to though. If you've only got compost, then that's absolutely fine. Now, the other thing to know about Amaryllis is that they really like to be packed into tight spaces, so they don't like loads of room around them. So when you're choosing your container to put the Amaryllis in, it's best to choose one that will leave sort of an inch gap between the bulb and the side of the pot. And last year I used containers like this, and I planted 3 in here, and I kind of had to squish them in, and they did really, really well. So I'm going to use the same containers again this year. Well, one of them's new, but I'm going to use 2 of the same containers in the hope that I have equal success. Now, this pot does not have a drainage hole in it. Can you see that? So I'm not putting any crocks or anything at the bottom, but I'm going to be really, really careful about how much I water it, because the last thing the Amaryllis want is to be sitting in a pile of soggy compost. So if you are using a container that doesn't have a hole in it, please be careful how much you water it. Always check your soil to see whether they actually need water. And in fact, once we've planted them up today and watered them in a little bit, they're not going to need any more water until they start to actually sprout, unless you've got them in a really hot environment, which I don't recommend. Yeah, be careful how much you water them. If they've got drainage holes, so I've got this container here and it's got a drainage hole because we drilled that last year, so that one's okay. I don't have to panic so much. I'm still going to be careful, but anyway, let's get planting. So I'm going to put some compost in the bottom here in the base. The other important thing to know about Amaryllis bulbs is that they really don't want to be buried. So unlike other bulbs where we have to bury them to 2 or 3 times their depth, Amaryllis bulbs, you only want to bury sort of the bottom 2/3. So the whole of this bit here needs to be above the compost level. And again, we need to kind of cram them in. I'm going to try and bury some of the roots. So I'm just pushing the compost in and around the bulb, checking my levels. These bulbs are super big this year. I hope I'm going to be able to get them all in to this container. The other great thing about putting them in a tight container is that they're less likely to topple over, so they're less likely to need support. I'm just going to water these now. I'm just using the water that they were sitting in. There's nothing wrong with that. And can you see how I avoided pouring it down the centre of these? You don't want to get like where the shoots come out. There's a little shoot starting there, but we don't want to get that wet. So I'm just putting enough water in. And then I'm going to take out my label. And I'm putting my label in because that's really important to me. So I water them before I put the moss on top because I don't want the moss to get wet particularly. And you really don't have to put moss on top. If you don't have any moss, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to decorate it at all. But I think it really adds something to the containers. And the moss isn't like compost, so it's not going to retain moisture. It doesn't bother the Amaryllis at all. And I just leave it like that. I think that looks so, so pretty. Now with this one, I don't want all the compost falling down there, so I'm just going to use that. But there's definitely room for water to drain underneath this. It's a very uneven base, so I know that the water will come out quite easily. So I watered this one off the potting bench because I didn't want it dripping. I mean, it is dripping anyway. It's all coming out the bottom, but that's why I watered it off the potting bench. And then this is the last one, and this one doesn't, again, it doesn't have a hole in the bottom. It's kind of a metal container, so I'm not sure how I'd make a hole in that. gorgeous, and I can't wait to see these ones flowering, hopefully in time for the festive season. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed this video today, well, yesterday and today, where I was planting various things up. I hope it's given you some inspiration. Don't forget that I've got a 10% off code for Peter Nyson. I'll pop it up here on the screen and in the description below. So if you still want bulbs or Amaryllis, they've got loads of different varieties. Do take a look and use your 10% off code to get money off those. It's really worth it. They're a fantastic company, but that's just my sales spiel, but I really do value them as a supplier. Anyway, as I said, I hope you've enjoyed this, found it inspiring. Get out there and plant some bulbs, buy some bare roots, or not bare roots in my case. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.